Ben Roethlisberger leads off this program for us. He was on his podcast, Footballing with Ben Roethlisberger, and had some, I think, very interesting things to say about Najee Harris and what the Steelers should do in terms of negotiation with their star running back, saying this, quote, there's going to be a lot of questions up there for Najee Harris, what they want to do there. If I'm the GM and I have the team first, I'm trying to lowball him, see what's the least amount of money I could offer to keep him. Now, he continues, and he does add in there that he thinks he should keep both of these guys, or the Steelers should keep both these guys, saying, quote, I think it's important to have him here, and I think he's a guy that's developing into a good leader on this team. I think he's a guy that's a good 1-2 punch with Jaylen Warren. So I think that's important to try and keep him around. Lowball and Najee Harris. First off, you're not going to keep many friends, Ben Roethlisberger, if you are the guy preaching that nobody should get contracts because you got to play team first football. Now, do I agree with the notion there? Yeah, definitely. If you have any consideration of keeping Najee Harris, which Ben says he would have the consideration. He would like to keep Najee Harris if he was the general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have to lowball. You can't look at this and say, we're going to pay Najee Harris a boatload of money. You know, here's 12, 10, $11 million. No, pal. Here's 6. Here's 5.5. Here's, if you could get any lower than that, great, but probably not. And then you start working your way up. It's the same thing with George Pickens. Hopefully it's the same thing with Russell Wilson. It's the same thing across the board. Nobody should ever start negotiations and say, here's the big giant number that you deserve, and we're going to give it to you immediately. No. And when it comes to Najee Harris, I think everybody has come to the understanding, at least, that chances are he's not sticking around in Pittsburgh. Chances are they're not giving him another contract after 2024. And because of that, if they're even going to try, it can't be anything that's, I mean, if we're going to be serious, a real offer. They're not going to give him you should definitely consider this offer. It's more of a Juju Smith-Schuster leaves, thinks he could go get money. He didn't get any money. He comes back to Pittsburgh. Terrell Edmunds thinks he could leave. He tries to leave. He gets no money. He comes back to Pittsburgh. That's what you're offering and looking at when it comes to Najee Harris. It's nothing more. It's nothing less. And I get it. I think the advice from Ben is spot on. It's what the Steelers should be doing. I think Najee's not going to be the biggest fan of it. I wouldn't either. And I also don't think there's any chance, and very few worlds, where Najee Harris takes a low ball offer to stay in Pittsburgh, because their running game's not really great. Their offensive line is young and underdeveloped. They have serious questions at quarterback. And, well, this team has kind of stunk the whole time he's been on it. So it's not really the place where you're looking at it going, I'm going to build a bright future here. It's more like I'm going to take a shot for no money. That's not going to happen. I think that where I still stand, it's not going to happen. If you want to lowball them, cool. But to be very honest, I think I'd be more okay with the Steelers taking a shot elsewhere and trying to get a new 1-2 punch with a guy like Nick Singleton or anybody of those anybody in that caliber. You know, you could obviously talk Ashton Genty, but that's not going to happen. He's not going to have any shot to fall to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'd say anybody in that 2nd to 4th round range, if that's going to be your future, I'd be more okay with it than Najee Harris. You look at this, you look at Ben. I mean, I think it's hard not to agree with him. But do you have thoughts on what he said in the future of Najee Harris?
The message in and of itself is not surprising. The person it came from is a little bit. Yeah. You expect maybe a Matthew Lombardi on the Pat McAfee show to say that. You expect maybe a Bill Belichick to come out and say that. You don't expect another player to talk about a contract situation from the organization's standpoint. That doesn't happen very often. Now, again, this is probably small beans. I'm sure Najee and Ben aren't going to get into a fight over it, but I would imagine that Najee's not going to be a guest on Footballin' anytime in the near future after this. But I think overall, it's what you expect the organization to do. It's what every organization does, sports or otherwise, whenever you're going into a contract negotiation. The team or the company is going to try to get you for as little money as they possibly can get you for. So they're going to obviously start with a low ball offer, or at least what they would consider a low ball offer. So it's not surprising that Ben would say, hey, I mean, it makes sense that this is going to happen because everybody and their mother knows it. It's just the only thing surprising to me is that it's coming from a former player. Not only that, a former teammate of Najee Harris as well, that's saying, yeah, they should go out and lowball Najee, even though they might want Najee Harris.
Yeah. As I was putting the headline on the story, I had to read it twice and just go, this seems a little aggressive. I was like, but it's pretty spot on. Like, he says low ball Najee Harris. That's about as aggressive as it can get.
Yeah.
Verbatim. It was a tough one. And I bet you if anybody ever said low ball Ben Roethlisberger, you'd not be happy about it. You'd not be happy about it at all. I know that it's the biggest topic of conversation. I know everybody wants to talk about what the Steelers offense looks like next year when it comes to the quarterback and the running back and so on and so forth. It's just not realistic for Najee Harris to return to Pittsburgh. Unless he doesn't get an offer anywhere else, I just look at it and say the Steelers are not going to offer him a contract big enough. They would have just picked up his fifth-year option if they believe in it. He hasn't done enough on the football field to sit here and say he is 100% worth the money, and chances are he's going to get some money elsewhere. It's the Justin Fields situation. Yeah, you want to keep him. Yeah, great. It'd be awesome to have him. Financially, chances are it's not going to work out because somebody else is going to take a risk on him, and your risk just isn't going to be big enough. And that's what it's going to come down to. I don't think Najee Harris returns to the Pittsburgh Steelers at all. But shout out Ben, future general manager Ben Roethlisberger.
Maybe, maybe of a fantasy football team. I don't think he has the temperament to sit there and be a general manager of a team. I don't think he wants to be involved in football at all outside of sitting in his basement and chilling with Spence.
Did you see him running around with pads on?
I did. That's a good father-son moment. I liked that. I thought it was hilarious, and I thought it was even more hilarious that there were actually people in the comment section saying, "I don't know, man, his arm's looking good." And
I love the people in the comment section saying, "Wow, dude, Ben's house is ridiculous," as if that man didn't make $100 million and lives in the city of Pittsburgh. Yeah, that is a very affordable place to live if you're making $100 million. So I would imagine Ben's house is. I've heard that Ben's house is ridiculous. So this little spot of his backyard didn't really shock me that much. It didn't really shock me.